r/AskReddit. What is the dumbest solution to a problem that actually worked? I called about a pothole at the entrance of my store. They said since it was in my entrance, I'd have to pay for it. I called back as a concerned citizen and it'll be fixed in 72 hours. You should have given this a try. Meet the man using penises to fill potholes. A Manchester man known as Wonksy is using penis graffiti to force councils to fill in potholes. And it seems to be working. I went to cancel a doctor's appointment and they said it was a $200 charge without a week's notice. I asked how much it was to reschedule. They said it was free. Okay, so I need to reschedule for 2 weeks out. Is 3 weeks okay? Yep. Alright, you're all set for 3 weeks from now. Anything else I can do for you? Yes, I need to cancel my appointment. We need a week's notice. My appointment is 3 weeks away. Oh, okay. Sure. Thank you. Couldn't believe it worked. They lost in their own game. LMAO, good job man. I'll try this if something like this happens to me. Thanks. As others have mentioned, the same thing works with hotels. It also works with internet companies. 2-year contract with Comcast. They tell me I have to pay an early termination fee. You can upgrade internet speeds and choose a new package without a contract. Then cancel. Worked for me. Our family cat hated our family dog. Rubbed the dog all over with fresh catnip. New best friends. And here I'm now, wondering if I could befriend a lion doing this. Something similar. We had a problem with my dog just trashing all of her toys as soon as she got them. So we put a stuffed rabbit, or something, in a bin with our dirty laundry. She loved that rabbit because it smelled like us. Never destroyed it, just carried it around. An officially recommended solution to a common problem with the Apple III was to lift the computer 2 inches and drop it. I did this and had it work. Owner of the machine never called me to do tech work again, but still admits it worked. The official Sinclair ZX81 solution to a RAM pack expansion coming loose was a blob of blue tack under the expansion. My dad worked for Apple back in the 80s. We had an Apple III. Everyone hated it. We were pissed when he gave the Apple IIe to a relative because that thing was awesome. My first computer was an Apple III. In about 1992, my family made me cart about a metric ton of bricks somewhere or other to earn it as well. All I ever did with it was boot an Apple II emulator. This is often because circuit cards come loose over time. Through heating and cooling of the components and dust collection in the gaps formed as parts move, they begin to have faults. Lifting it to him and dropping it ensures enough force to reset these components without breaking others or knocking others loose. This is relatively common practice, especially with older tech, as most newer tech is either too fragile or has been designed to not have these issues. Chip creep. It was absolutely a thing. Things are designed much differently now, though, so people think it is a joke. I worked on aircraft built in the 80s and 90s using parts as old as the 60s. We frequently did ground checks to fix problems. But you needed to know which side to check and have a calibrated elbow to know how hard to check it. My stepdad was taking a sat-nav back to the shop as it was acting strange, but the bloke serving him refused to take it as the warranty only covers physical damage, not accidental damage. So he just drop-kicked it lightly, and the bloke just casually said, "That'll do sir," and went out back to get a replacement. Wasn't too sure what to think about that. It's simple. The shop assistant gets paid enough to be there and has to explain himself to other people if the rules aren't followed exactly, but isn't paid enough to actually care. My folks were in town, and my wife and I wanted to take them to dinner. We head to a nearby mediocre steakhouse at the request of my parents, and it's around 6 p.m. The hostesses tell us there's a minimum 45-minute wait. I get suspicious, as their parking lot had barely any cars, so I peek around into their dining area. There are several open tables that would fit a party of 4. Mildly annoyed, I ask the hostesses why we can't be seated at any of these tables. They reply that they're being held for future reservations. I get on my smartphone, open the Open Table app, make a reservation for 6:15 p.m. for a party of 4, and we are seated immediately. I've had that happen before too, but after booking my reservation I went somewhere else to eat. Cause duck that bullshit. This was before high-speed internet. We had to transfer a database between 2 cities 500 km apart, and we had only one night to do it. People started searching how to compress the files and rent several expensive digital lines, I think ISDN, to spread the copy. Then someone said, why don't we remove the hard drive out of the server and move it there by car? So I drove 500 kilometers during the night to deliver the disk and mount the new database. Never underestimate the bandwidth of a station wagon full of tapes hurtling down the highway. Computer Networks, 3rd edition, p83. Paraphrasing Dr. Warren Jackson, Director, University of Toronto Computing Services, UTCS, circa 1985. Even now they still do stuff like this. Cloud providers will rent you a suitcase-sized box that is basically just 30 hard drives, so you can transfer 100 TB by loading it on the box and mailing it back. Back when I was in 6th form at school, we had new sofas in the common room, a room where I could hang out and relax/work/listen to music on our time off. They had been there only a couple of days before one of the legs snapped off one of the sofas. Now we could have attempted to fix it, or just left it missing a leg, but there were often checks and cleaners moving furniture would have noticed it was broken, and we would have got in trouble for not respecting school property. So we did the only sensible thing, which was break all the legs off the sofa, and then all the sofas in the room, so they were all at the same height. We stashed the legs in the ceiling, and nobody knew a thing. Long ago a friend of mine had a couch where one of the back legs broke off. So the other back leg was broken off, but the front ones were left behind. Somehow that made it the most godly comfortable couch ever. Dudes pissing absolutely everywhere in the bathroom where I once worked. So the janitor put a little red sticker in each toilet and suddenly the problem stopped. Apparently men will aim at a target 100% of the time, if a target is presented. That's why a lot of urinal brands have their logo in them. Guys will aim at the target. Though, on the subject of urinals and ideas, who thought these waterless urinals were a good idea? They're great for about a year, but then they get clogged up with piss and calcium, and the whole bathroom smells like stale urine. There was a nursing home in Germany and the patients with dementia kept wandering off. They installed a fake bus stop in front of the nursing home so, when dementia patients got out of the building, they would go sit at the fake bus stop and wait for the non-existent bus. The bus stop was clearly visible from the main offices, so whenever staff saw someone out there, they would just go and retrieve them. Solved the problem completely. Dementia wards in hospitals in New England, USA, are pretty common to have something like a bookcase painted over the doors to prevent the same sort of thing. Edit. No, it's not a fire hazard. Any mentally competent person can discern it as a door. My mom worked with many Alzheimer's patients. She promised innumerable people tickets for the bus that comes in the morning. If they'd go to sleep, she'd promise to wake them up in the morning so they wouldn't miss it. Tapping on the guidance computer during the Apollo 11 moon landing. At the refinery, where I work, we call this an instrument calibration tap. It fixes things more often than you could imagine. Jeb, the guidance computer isn't working. Just slap it around a little, Bill. That always works. In this thread, a lot of percussive maintenance. Nurses here will recognize this one. Once I was dealing with an extremely agitated and fearful Alzheimer's patient who had been sundowning since 3 p.m. Sundowning is an occurrence in some Alzheimer's patients, where their mental function gets worse and worse as the day goes on / once it starts to get dark. In a hoe, this sweet old lady was having an absolute fit. All through my shift, night shift yay, I was running in and out of her room. The bed alarm kept going off. She was so confused, afraid. I desperately wanted her to go to sleep. Mind you, I had 7 other patients. I finally walk her out to the nurse's station and plop her down in a seat next to me while I do my charting. She is yelling at me and throwing things. I've had it at this point and I'm running out of ideas. I finally look at her and say, how will I ever finish with the wash? My husband will be so mad when he gets home. Would you help me finish? She looks me right in the eye, clear as day, and says, damn it sister, don't you ever learn. Give me that laundry. So I grab a stack of folded towels and mess them up real quick and plop them in front of her. She folded all of them. I would say, oh look at that. She turned around and I would mess the towels up again. This went on a few times until this sweet lady just passed out, exhausted from being so worked up earlier and maybe from all the towel folding. I slowly push her in the desk chair down the hall and gently get her back into bed. She started to wake up and I leaned down and whispered, all the wash is done. You have nothing else to worry about. She slept throughout the night. We were both happy. I'm the grandma whisperer. My dad used to be a nurse. He said that saying the baby sleeping works 90% of the time on Alzheimer's patients. Great story. Apparently in Reagan's later years he had Alzheimer's quite badly and loved to rake leaves in his yard, so the Secret Service would scatter leaves behind him as he raked, so he would rake and keep busy all day. Apparently his Alzheimer's got so bad by the end he once sat in a replica of the Oval Office at his own presidential library and said it reminded him of something that used to be important in his life. Imagine forgetting you were the president of the United States. I read this somewhere, so I'm not sure if it's true, but an airport was having complaints that luggage was taking too long to get to baggage claim. The airport's solution was to move baggage claim even farther away from the gates. The complaints stopped because a lot of the time spent waiting was now spent just walking there. The actual time it took to get your luggage wasn't any faster. At Denver International Airport, this sort of happens. You walk from your gate to the tram, wait for the tram, ride the tram to the main terminal building, then you walk to your baggage claim. Generally your baggage shows up shortly after you get there. Meanwhile, I've gone to other airports where the walk from the airplane to the baggage claim is direct without any waiting, and then I'm waiting 10 to 15 minutes for bags to show up. Duct tape occlusion therapy. If you've got a wart or a verruca, stick a piece of duct tape over it and replace the tape every time it falls off for 2 weeks or so. It sounds like it's bullshit, like the Windex from my big fat Greek wedding, and I have no idea how or why it works, but it's cheap, painless, and has worked for me and everyone I've recommended it to, including once on a verruca that I'd had for almost a decade, so it seems unlikely to me that it's just a coincidence. Of course, if you admit it in public you sound like the crazy lady at the end of the street who thinks tinfoil hats will keep the government mind rays out. This sometimes works because you're irritating the skin underneath, and you may trigger your immune system to actually work properly and have a go at the virus. It's a similar principle to using salicylic acid to irritate the skin. You could combine them. Having said that, I've tried both, and they didn't work, but your mileage may vary. You've reached the end. You're a star. Destroy the subscribe button for more like that.